It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for Season 10 of The Walking Dead. This is my episode predictions for Season 10 episode 15, which is called The Tower. So as always, I'm gonna go through the title and synopsis and make some predictions from that, and then jump into my overall predictions about the stuff I think we're gonna see in this episode. So the title of this episode is The Tower, and the synopsis reads, the communities prep for the final battle of the Whisper War, while Eugene's group meets Princess. Now, in terms of the title, The Tower, that's referring to the water tower that's near Alexandria. Now, if we kind of go back to the comic source material, there is a specific comic moment that is most likely going to happen in this episode, and the title is definitely hinting towards that. That specific scene from the comics involves Beta, another character, and the water tower. Now, I'm not going to go through detail what that scene is and what happens, but I will make a prediction in terms of who that character will be. With that said, let's jump into the synopsis. So the synopsis, the communities prep for the final battle of the Whisper War. So obviously we know, based on the ending of the last episode, Beta basically summoned all of the walkers. He built his walker army and he sent it towards Alexandria. And even looking at the trailer and the sneak peek of this episode, we know that the walkers are going to surround Alexandria and they're actually going to infiltrate the Alexandria safe zone. Walkers and Whispers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, but that's going to act as the final Whisper War battle. Maybe they're going to play around with the timeline a little bit and having episode 15 be the aftermath, in a way, of the community actually being overrun, and maybe we'll see snippets of flashbacks in episode 15 showing us what happened and how the survivors managed to escape. It might not necessarily work out, especially given that episode 16 is not going to air for God knows how long, but I'm sure that there's going to be lots of casualties, maybe background characters for the most part, but there might be a few big characters who are going to die. I don't think we're going to see too many big ones. Maybe the only big death that we're going to see is the comic moment that we're going to see, but other than that, I don't think we're going to see a lot of big character deaths in this episode. But the last part of the synopsis, Eugene's group meets Princess. Of course, we met Princess, or got our first glimpse at Princess near the end of last episode. Princess being the cheerful character that we saw wearing the pink sweater. So obviously, based on the opening minute sneak peek, we know that we're going to pick up this episode with the rest of that scene. And with the group, Eugene, Ezekiel, and Yumiko meeting Princess for the first time and getting to know her and seeing what she's all about. Now, in terms of some of the plot points for this episode, the first, I think what we're going to see is maybe the rest of the story that we saw at the end of last episode, which is Beta gathering the Horde and attacking Alexandria. Now, the question of whether I think we're going to see them actually infiltrate the camp or if we're going to see the aftermath, I think they're most likely going to play around with timeline and not show us the immediate moment when Alexandria is overrun. And we're pretty much going to see like the aftermath. There might be a few scenes where they show the herd getting there, but I don't think that we're going to see any extended scene with the Whispers and Walkers infiltrating the Alexandria safe zone. The reason I think they're doing that is because it feels too much like No Way Out. So I think that they're gonna try to stay away from that a little bit and give us like a change in timeline. So show us the aftermath, and then maybe through flashbacks, show us moments that we really need to see from the previous timeline before the Whispers and the herd got there. Next is Alexandria is going to be overrun by the herd. Now, the next part of that is the residents of Alexandria are going to be split. Some are going to hide, some are going to run away. So there's going to be a part where there's going to be a split in where the survivors are. All of the survivors are most likely going to head towards Oceanside. That makes the most sense. It's the next community that they have. Hilltop got destroyed a few episodes ago. Now Alexandria, they have nowhere else to go. So Oceanside is the next destination. Even Beta realized that, because if you take a look at the sneak peek, this thing clicks in Beta's head that Oceanside, or the ocean, is the next place that they would go. So I'm pretty sure that they're all gonna meet up at Oceanside at some point. But I don't think that'll be this episode. I think in this episode, we're gonna see mostly characters hiding or running away from Alexandria, and trying to head towards Oceanside, but I don't think they're actually going to get there in this episode. We might see a possible scene from the comics involving Beta and another character, which happens up in the water tower near Alexandria. Now, in terms of what that scene is, again, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to spoil it for non-comic readers, but in terms of the character I think is going to be involved in that scene, I think it's going to be either Alden or Father Gabriel. I think both are extremely likely to get that. If I'm going to put one over the other, I think Alden is more likely to get that than Father Gabriel. Now, the next thing involving Beta, I think we're most likely going to see Beta either die by the end of this episode, which I think is less likely, but the other possibility I see is that the episode will end with Beta actually coming face to face with Negan and Daryl, and us seeing the start of the showdown between them. I don't think that we'll actually see the fight between them in this episode, but I think we will see the start of it, and that will lead to Beta's death, which I think is going to happen in the finale, most likely at the start of the finale. And then the next thing we're going to see is obviously Eugene's group meeting Princess. I talked about that already, so we're going to see the group meeting Princess. If you take a look at the opening minute sneak peek that they released, it pretty much gives us a good understanding why Princess ends up following the group and joining with the three characters, Yumiko, Eugene, and Ezekiel. Because at the end of the opening minute sneak peek, Princess aims her rifle and mows down walkers. Obviously that makes a lot of noise. Walkers will most likely come, but the horses run away. And I think even though the group may not trust Princess, they will have to trust her, because I think what we're going to see is that walkers are going to be attracted towards the area because of that noise. And I think Princess is going to help the survivors find their way through the city and get away from the danger zone. Given that she knows the area better, it's basically her city. I think by the end of that story, what we're going to see is that the group is going to tell Princess that she could tag along with them. Now, if the ending of this episode doesn't involve Beta, which I originally mentioned, another potential ending to this episode could be Eugene's group plus Princess meeting Stephanie for the first time. Of course, Stephanie is the person that was talking to Eugene. Or even a small hint at Commonwealth, which is the community Stephanie is from. That's another possibility. I think that's less likely. The most likely ending to this episode, I think, is a face down between Negan, Daryl, and Beta. But they could go a different route with that, obviously. But it's gonna suck no matter what, because this episode is most likely gonna end on a cliffhanger. And given that we're not gonna see the finale until God knows how long, because post-production wasn't able to finish, so they delayed the finale, that means that whatever the cliffhanger they give us is, we're gonna have to wait months and months and months probably before we find out what happens. So I just hope whatever cliffhanger they give us is not a big cliffhanger and it's like a bearable one. Now, this is nothing on them and the writers. It's not like the cliffhanger in 616 where it pissed everyone off, because in that case they knew that we're gonna have to wait months and months before we see the next episode. But in this case, they had absolutely no idea that this was gonna happen and that the finale is gonna get delayed. So this is not on them. It's just a matter of, let's hope that we're lucky and this cliffhanger is not as bad. But with all of that said, the next thing that I think we're going to see in this episode, which I didn't mention, but it fits somewhere in the middle of all of that, is we're most likely going to see scenes between Negan and Lydia, and we're going to see a small story between them. Obviously, Negan killed Alpha, Lydia's mom, so there's going to be a back and forth between them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, and I'm sure that there's going to be a mini story arc in this episode regarding them. Another mini story arc could be related to Negan and Carol, or Negan and Daryl, or all of them, and it's going to basically follow up with what we already know, which is that Carol sent Negan to kill Alpha and Daryl knew nothing about it. So they might kind of play around with that story a little bit more as well in this episode. But with all of that said, that's pretty much my predictions for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts and opinions and predictions in the comment section below. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.